Hello, Regina. How you doing? Can you hear me? So you're unmuted if you're talking.
Teacher, how are you?
Very good, eh?
Good.
Okay, Regina. Welcome to the first session of Evaluación de las Habilidades Lingüísticas 2. In this session, we're gonna cover the following topics, okay? But first, I would like to talk about the introduction that we have for this new course. Could you please read this?
Yes. The assessment of learning is of great importance in any pedagogical process as it enables educators to provide feedback that facilitates the construction of meaningful learning. According to Sorilla, 2012, learning assessment is one of the most complex tasks undertaken by educators, not only though to integrate teacher,
Intricate.
intricate process it entail, but also because of the implication of making judgment about students' learning achievement. In this regard, it is essential to consider what is being assessed and why, as well as to understand whom and when to assess in order to provide timely feedback focused on achievements, strengths, and areas for improvement, thereby reinforcing learning's knowledge. The course evaluation of language skills too constitute the second part of learning assessment component and aim to guide students in the design and development of authentic assessment instrument that enhance the teaching and learning process of English language skill. It encourages the creative use of various technological tools to contribute to coherent,
Yes.
competent, and high quality learning assessment model within educational institutions.
Yes, that is related to the things that we will be discussing in these 7 sessions, okay? As you know, in the previous course, we were talking about the test constructions, with which elements do we have to take into consideration when constructing a test, right? In this session, and the other ones that we're gonna see, it's gonna be related to learning assessment. You know that when we talk about learning assessment, we have different types, right? We have the peer assessment, the self-assessments, and so on. Well, our the topics that we're gonna discuss in these sessions are related to the authentic assessment. We're gonna see the definition. We're gonna discuss, right, the definition of authentic assessment, the characteristics, the comparison between authentic and traditional assessment, and some examples of this. And at the end, you know that we have a task, right?
Yes.
Our objectives for this session. So we got define authentic assessment and explain the purpose of this, identify key characteristics of authentic assessment, compare authentic assessment with traditional assessment, provide and analyze real world examples of authentic assessment. And at the end, we're going to reflect on the benefits and challenges of implementing authentic assessment in education. Because remember that in this new era, in this new century, even there are many teachers that they are using traditional assessments, right? Let's move on to here. But first, we're gonna start with a speaking activity that I would like to listen to you. What do you know about this? And we see the first questions. What comes to your mind when you hear the word assessment?
Well, assessment, well, basically is to evaluate to
Mm-hmm.
evaluate your student. It could be during a course or ending the course if you want to measure the knowledge ending the course so you can assess, or it could be at the beginning just to make sure what are the levels of English. For example, what is the level of English of your students so you can assess with a small quiz with
Mm-hmm.
simple things so you have an idea from where to start.
Or with a diagnosis test,
Exactly,
you know,
diagnostics.
the main purpose is to identify the weaknesses and the threats, right, that each student has. And as you said, and then we're gonna start from what we found, right?
Yes.
What about the second question? How do teachers usually assess a student's performance?
Well, it could be in different ways, as you said before, in diagnostic tests, with presentations,
Mm-hmm.
oral presentations, writing activities, um, with final tests, final
Mm-hmm.
exams,
Quizzes.
quizzes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's see the third one. Can you think of a time when you were assessed in a way that felt practical and useful? What was it like?
Mm, can you think of a time when you were assessed in a way that felt practical? Well, to be honest, I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
one scenario right now, but I think that it will be hard to, to be how can I pronounce that word? Assessed.
In past,
Yes,
assessed with
assessed.
the t sound at the end.
Okay, assessed when the test doesn't has, for example, the clear instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that.
Probably you don't remember that when you were studying in high school, but in the last year, you know that in fifth year, most of the students or the grade has to do a project, right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember,
The
but there was sometimes that they were doing that. So that when you do a project or a real life task, so that can be practical and useful. Okay. Okay, let's analyze the next question. Do you prefer traditional exams or performance-based assessments, and why?
Mm, um, I have a question. What is performance-based assessment?
Are those assessments that are based on the skill that you have?
Okay. Yes, I think performance-based assessment. Well, because I think that they are better because they are focused just in the skill that the teacher needs to evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
For example, today we will have oh sorry, tomorrow we will have like um and a test, and I will
Mm-hmm.
try to measure your listening skills. So um you know that you need to try to practice,
Yeah.
listening activities, something that help you um to understand better. So I think that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And something important that I would like to highlight here regarding to performance-based assessment is that this can help us, right, to apply the knowledge in real life situations, you know. And if you got some weaknesses in some of the skills that everybody has, or in this case that you got it, you can enhance it, right, through this kind of assessment. Okay, good. Let's move on to next slide. and we're gonna see the authentic assessment. What do you understand for that? Do you have some idea about it?
Authentic assessment.
What it
If I'm not
is?
mistaken, authentic assessment is based on examples of real life situations, daily situations.
Yes, yes, they are applied to real life situations, right? Amazing, good. And here we got a little description about this one, and it says that authentic assessment is an evaluation approach that measures students' ability to apply knowledge and skills in real world contexts, as you said. Unlike traditional assessment that often rely on multiple choice tests or remote memorization, authentic assessment focus on meaningful and practical tasks that reflect real life challenges. Okay. Yeah. Now, do you think that all of the teachers are using authentic assessment nowadays in the classroom?
Um, yes, I think so. Nowadays, well, I can say that they can, like, yes. Well, yes, I think so because, for example, um, yesterday, I was watching some videos
Mm-hmm.
about a grammatic,
Mm-hmm.
and they they use like examples of our daily life to do that,
Mm-hmm.
to explain the topic, so it's more easy for them to understand, uh the main purpose.
Yeah, it's easier, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's move on to next slide, which is related to the characteristics that we got of authentic assessment. And the first one is real world relevance. What do you understand for this?
um Real world relevance, uh real situations that we face every day.
Yes, yes. They are related to the real life situations, right? And I would say that we also have the practical situation that we got here. Amazing. Good. What about the next one? Higher order thinking.
Higher ordered thinking. Um, like organize your ideas or things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, organize ideas, synthesize, analyze information. And when we analyze, that, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. Let's suppose that we got how can I say this? A 10 pages handout, okay? And we need to synthesize the information. So what is the first thing that we're gonna do to analyze? Then
To
so
analyze.
that is related to higher order thinking. And nowadays we use some graphic organizers, to synthesize the information. Good. Let's see the third one. Performance based.
Performance base. Um, the level, it could be something related with the level, the strain, the
Hmm.
abilities.
Yeah, yeah. It based on a student's ability, so on the student's levels and abilities to demonstrate the skills that student has. What about this? Process oriented.
Process oriented. Well, they are like steps, instructions that need to be
Yes.
followed.
Yes. Okay, good. What about this? Multiple evaluation criteria.
Multiple evaluation criteria. Mm.
You know that nowadays, as a teacher, when we have to assess the students, it's not gonna be just numerical scores. So we need to use evaluation criteria. Can you mention some of the instruments where we can apply the evaluation criteria? You got some idea about it?
Let me try to think.
Okay.
Multiple evaluations. If I'm not mistaken, it's reference about the different skills that we can evaluate, like writing, speaking.
Yes, yes, but remember that when you're gonna evaluate writing, so that's why that the teacher has to create evaluation criteria for that skill. So they are more specific, but we got some instruments where we can find some evaluation criteria. When I say evaluation criteria, they are statements, okay, about what you are expecting the student do.
Mm. Like, okay, like instructions or
Yes, they are instructions.
purpose, object.
Yeah, they are instructions, but those instructions or those criterias are positioned on rubrics. You know that, for example, when you're gonna make another presentation, teacher has to provide a rubric, right?
Yes.
So under rubric, you will find some evaluation criteria. I mean, some statements and some instructions about what you have to do with your presentation. Okay,
Exactly.
let's see an example to understand better. Let's suppose that you're gonna talk about environmental issues, okay? So in the rubric, we have a evaluation criteria that says the students has a really domain of the topic. So I need to see if you're well prepared or not. So that statement is one of the evaluation criteria. The other one, a student demonstrates time management of his or her presentation, or a student demonstrates the ability to communicate in English fluently. So that would be an evaluation criteria which is positioned in the rubrics. Okay, you
Okay.
understand what I mean?
Yes. Basically, are some aspects that you would like to evaluate during the presentation or the
Yes,
exam.
yes. Or another instruments that we got, and we have to, and we can also find evaluation criteria are the checklists.
The checklist,
See, that in Spanish is lista de cotejo.
student centered.
What about this one?
Um, I don't have idea for that one. Student centered. Mm,
So here is when we have to encourage active engagement and self reflections of the students. Okay.
okay.
Okay, let's move on to next slide, which is related to the differences that we got between authentic and traditional assessment. Okay, so let's see the focus. When we talk about focus in authentic assessment, refers to the application of knowledge. Okay, but in traditional assessment refers to report of facts. When we talk about formats, authentic assessment refers to projects, oral presentations, as you said, portfolios, while traditional assessment refers to multiple choice, true or false, completed the blanks, um, complete the missing words, essays, and so on. Okay. So when we want to talk about real world reference, the level in authentic assessment is too high, but in traditional assessment, it's too low. Because remember that in the traditional assessment, it's more on memorization, something mechanical, right? And when we talk about skills assessed, inauthentic assessment refers to critical thinking. You know that this ability has to be developed students because they have to solve problem in the real life, right? They have to be
Okay.
creativity. problem solving, but in traditional assessment, we only got memorization, comprehension. Okay. When we talk about feedback, authentic assessment refers an ongoing formative, so we need to follow the student's process, especially those that has a low learning styles, and traditional assessment, it refers just to the final score.
Good.
You got some questions so far?
No.
Everything's clear at Solo Translate?
Hmm. Oh, good.
Okay, good. Let's move on to next. Now let's see some examples. So the role play simulations. So you know that here, when we say role plays, means that a student have to act, right?
Exactly.
And we say that has to act as professionals that they're gonna do, for example, as teachers, as doctors, depends on the kind of role plays that teacher applies to the student, right?
Yes.
Let's see the portfolio assessment. What do you understand by portfolio assessment?
Portfolio. Um, no, I don't have idea.
For example, I think that was 1.5 years ago. I applied this kind of assessment in reading and writing too in the same university. So we were working on a science fiction readings, and they have to read each passages, and then they have to create an essay, a different kind of essay, and all those works, tasks that they were being doing, so they were being saved in a portfolio. But the portfolio in that case was a digital one. It was not
Mhm.
a printed portfolio.
So in that portfolio, you will save your droughts.
Yes, all the tasks that you did in that class.
Um,
¿Tienes tú primos, sobrinos pequeños que están en primaria?
yes.
No sé si te has fijado de que las maestras de primaria piden una carpeta.
Sí.
En la carpeta van guardando toditos los trabajos que ellos hacen.
It's the
Entonces más o
same.
menos más o menos así es un portfolio, ¿verdad?
Mm,
Pero en este caso en las universidades, pues como está la tecnología, no le vamos a pedir en físico, ¿verdad? Que en una
yeah.
carpeta, sino que puede ser digital.
Yes, got your point.
Okay, good. What about project-based learning?
Learning. Um, it's like create something, create the same word say create like a project based on work on something that you need to present at the end of something or at the end of a period of time.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned the keyword create.
Great.
Create something. Yeah. They're gonna create something about what they have learned. For example, if you are studying marketing, so you're gonna create a marketing plan, okay? And so on. Or you want to be an English teacher, you're gonna create a didactic planning for a course, for
Yeah.
a communicative course, right? That is project-based learning. Okay, good. What about case studies?
Case studies. Mm, case studies. Specific cases that need I don't know, a specific
Yeah,
case.
yeah, they could be specific cases about real world problems, and at the end, they have to propose or to find a solution. So that is the most important when teachers work with case studies, okay? So, or they plant, they post some scenarios and you have to find a solution.
Okay, got it.
Okay, what about this? Peer and self-assessment.
Peer and self-assessment. Um, it's like profits yourself
Mhm.
or not,
Yeah, and your peers as well.
and your peers.
¿Cómo traduces peer and self-assessment?
Peer como ganancia. No.
No, no, sí, pero no aplica en este contexto. Por ejemplo, si yo te digo, ¿qué tipo de peer assessment? Cuando te digo peer assessment, ¿qué tipo de evaluación es?
No, no sé, profe.
¿Has oído hablar de la autoevaluación,
Ah,
coevaluación? Entonces, el self-assessment es una autoevaluación, ¿verdad?
autoevaluación.
Cuando los estudiantes reflexionan en su propio desempeño.
Sí.
Ahora, el peer assessment es coevaluación. ¿Qué me
Ujú.
da a entender la coevaluación? Cuando los estudiantes se evalúan entre ellos mismos, ¿verdad? Got it?
Ahora sí, sí.
Let's see the last one, presentations.
Presentations is um keywords that you can
Mhm.
use to explain a topic. So remember that in presentations you don't need to put a lot of information because
Yes.
it's boring. So you can use something to catch the attention, the students'
Mhm.
attention. It could be with pictures, charts,
Mhm. Yeah.
diagrams, small informations using
Yeah.
keywords.
Right. Good. Let's continue with this. So here we got the conclusion for this. And we say that authentic assessment provides a meaningful way to measure students' knowledge and abilities by engaging them in practical, real life tasks. This approach fosters critical thinking, creativity, and problem solving skills, making learning more effective and relevant. Because remember that when you finish studying and you go to the practical labor, so you don't need any score, so you need to apply the knowledge, the skills that you have been practicing during when you were studying, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Eh, Eso ha sido todo por el día de hoy. Espero te haya gustado la clase, ¿verdad?
Yes, it was so interesting.
Entonces, en la plataforma ya está todo el material, ¿verdad? Referente a esta asignatura, a esta primera sesión, perdón. Y de igual manera, ya está habilitada la primera tarea para que revises, leas bien las instrucciones y procedas a hacerla, ¿verdad? Cualquier cosa que no entiendas, pues ya sabes que me puedes preguntar por WhatsApp para aclararte y así pues puedas subir tu tarea en tiempo y forma.
Okay. Okay, está bien, profe. Gracias.
Ok, está bien. Buenas noches entonces.
Buenas noches.
Ok.